Well, good morning and good day and good day and good day. I am so glad to be here this morning. Whoops, I got feedback. I'm so glad to be here this morning, and I hope you are glad to be up and about as well. So, I just wanted to jump online. I know it's Monday. Normally, I'm on Saturday morning, or at least I try to be. And I am telling you guys, I am somewhat struggling as we get this new year going to try to get a schedule down that works. It is something else. You try to start on one day at a certain time, and then all of a sudden, as soon as you start with the time that you think is going to be open and free, then all of a sudden there are lots of things coming up and being scheduled, and you got to do at that exact same time on that exact same day. So I do hope that the rest of you are not struggling with that like I am. But I'm trying to get myself some kind of continuity. All right, so that being said, welcome. Why are you here at All for Success? Welcome, because this is a wonderful, friendly space. We try to be friendly, we try to be a little bit upbeat, and of course, we are a Sussex friendly space. And I like to discuss all things that I can think of from the point of view of a mom of adult children. When I see Harry and Meghan, I think of my own kids and at their age and the things that they are trying to overcome as they journey through life. And so I try to throw out little moments of thought, observation, wisdom, if you will. And I like to do it also with a little bit of levity, little bit. And then there are serious topics I might allude to, but then I usually jump back into something fun and positive. Now, with that being said, I want all of you to hop out there, get yourself your coffees ready. If you're going to be having yourself a little drink of coffee, then get that. Sit back, relax, and hopefully we will have a fun time and a go at it, and I won't keep you too long. Now, if you are out here getting your coffee ready and you're excited to participate, please leave a chat down below. Hit the like button if you hear something that's fun. And of course, if you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to put those in the chat as well. All right, with that being said, we're going to roll right on along. Now, because I said, of course, I am a mom of adult children, also in this Sussex friendly space, get out there and exercise. I know I have to. Oh my gosh. If I don't move around, I become so stiff. But I get that is par for the course, right? So you guys try to stay fit, try to stay limber, exercise, walk, get out in the sunshine if you can, and enjoy the day as you try to beat those physical challenges, because I know I have to. So jump out there, exercise a little bit, eat right as best that you can. As they say, everyone is talking about eating less processed food. I'm in total agreement with that. As a matter of fact, if you're inclined to grow some food of your own, then go ahead and do that. I hear that that is a great thing to try. I have tried my hand at it. I need to get better. But I have been pretty productive at cabbage, okay? I seem to be able to get cabbage to come up well. So, you guys, let's join in. As a matter of fact, maybe on one of these chats, we'll do a little bit of talk about gardening. As we celebrate Meghan Markle's debut of her show, then we'll try to jump out there and be getting ready for spring gardening as well. Won't that be fun? You know what? That would be fun. Let's all get together and do some kind of spring gardening or get ready for that. And then we'll kind of do that along and in line with her show and the topics that she'll be covering. Yeah, let's do that. All right. Yeah, I'm going to throw out, I'm going to probably start with cabbage again because that's easiest for me. Matter of fact, you can do that in the winter. But, where was I? Yeah, exercise. So get out, stay fit, eat right. All right. I know, people, but we all got to do it. It'll be fun. Let's think of some things that we can grow and the type of gardening we want to do, whether it's small gardening, outdoor in the backyard gardening, or even little window boxes. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to join her in that endeavor. So, as we are reminded, her Netflix show was postponed a little bit. That's going to be With Love, Megan, and it's going to be the Netflix presentation, kind of a cooking lifestyle show. And so that's kind of moved back a little bit on the burner to around March. So hopefully once LA kind of gets their footing back after some of these fires and the devastation that has been caused by that, then Megan, I believe, will begin to look at getting her program back on the release dates. And since she and Prince Harry are both doing a lot of actual on the ground volunteering themselves, it is probably going to be their attention on helping people recover from the LA fires and giving to those various organizations and lending a helping hand where they can. So I'm assuming that that's going to maybe cut into perhaps interviews she wanted to do around her show or secondary things that might have come along with the outcoming or the production actually hitting the film way. So, a lot of times they have a lot of things surrounding that production, like the people will then go on the tour circuit and start talking about their program. A lot of times they hit talk shows and they invite the different guests on these shows. But due to the LA fires, it's very possible that many of the people involved and that would have been participating are now paying more attention to some of the devastation and the hard work they've got to deal with out there in Los Angeles. And I think that might be part of the delay. So we're still looking forward to it. And for us who are not instantly or directly affected by that, then this too is a great time for us to prepare for the same thing in the spring, like goods and food stuff. And if you want to donate to these various causes, on the Archwell page, they have a long list of those companies, organizations, and charities that are working to assist people in this particular situation. And it is heart-wrenching. It truly is heart-wrenching to watch people actually try to pick up from losing everything that is in their house. I often think about that myself, and I had to in the past, because I had to move around quite a bit working around the military environment. Many people who work in and around the military, over that 20 years of service, you get used to the possibility of having to pack up and move every 3 to 5 years. And so it becomes a part of your psychological profile that you will often move or have to start over with each movement. But that can be extraordinarily stressful, even when we had support and you had a plan, plus you knew where you were coming from and going to. So I just can imagine how stressful that was, the basic moves, and then you layer on top of that the complete understanding that there is nothing that you know. For example, you've lost everything, and that afternoon you have no idea where you are going. So that stress has got to multiply that situation by 1,000%. So we've all got our hearts and prayers towards what they're going through. And so her programming will be pushed back into the spring. So let's hope it comes forward at that time and that there's nothing surrounding it at that time that will cause another delay. In the meantime, many of the people that I have known, the super chatties and the super squatties, many of them said they were watching Polo again. So, hey, I encourage you to do that. Hop on Netflix and watch Polo. That was pretty entertaining. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it's kind of reality-esque TV, but you'll learn a little bit about Polo, and it is pretty interesting. I liked it. It was really good. I don't know why people had any problem with it. It was a well produced and very informative show. And that show, also, if you're looking for something else to do with Netflix, I also recommend 6888. And that is the Netflix production that is talking about the postal unit that was deployed during World War II. I hope if any of you are interested, you might watch that. There's a lot of history around it, and it's a worthwhile watch. So it gave you a little bit of an insight at some of the challenges and some of the hurdles that the women who decided to work during World War II, they were the Women's Army Corps at that time. That was prior to women being regular army, right? So they had the Women's Army Corps, and they did various jobs in support of the military. Often they were nurses. The Women's Army Corps often had administrative staff like typists and secretaries. And then they also had services like cooking was often a Women's Army Corps facility. Services, driving, delivery, laundry was huge. Laundry services were humongous. And so the Women's Army Corps augmented the active duty military in many of these jobs. 6888 becomes very well known because they were postal services. And that is a phenomenal duty that they had. But you might like that show. I thought it was very interesting. Right? Okay, so enough, you know what, guys? Enough of me blabbering on about all of my personal likes and loves, which over time, I'm going to warn you, they're going to get worse. So with that being said, I think I have actually a little clip of her trailer, and I'm going to see if it'll allow me to play it.
Let's go. I've always loved taking something pretty ordinary and elevating it. Surprising people with moments that let them know I was really thinking of them.
What? This is probably one of the most glamorous moments of my life. It's magic.
Let's go. I've always loved taking something pretty ordinary and elevating it. Surprising people with moments that let them know I was really thinking of them.
What? This is probably one of the most glamorous moments of my life. It's magic.
Let's go.
All right, all right. So I hope that is a great another reminder that that is what we might be looking forward to when she comes for her wonderful Meghan, or rather with love, Meghan. And so I think if you do anything with love, it ought to be dynamic. Now, I don't know if YouTube will allow that to go through. We'll see, because I just cut the clip. All right, so with that being said, now let's do a short chat on why I support all things Meghan and Harry at the moment. Well, if you all recall, one of my interests is pointing out how propaganda in the media operates. Now, as many of us, if you're in the age bracket that I am in, you know, we have seen this all of our lives, and we sort of take it in and then somewhat disregard it. However, today, in today's world, with the additional things like social media, fast media, all of the type of cable channels and the selections, it has magnified and become something almost unrecognizable. I love to always refer to being a kid who loved watching television when I was young. But the way that we consumed television at that time was very naive and childlike. And it is true that we did grow up in an era where what we saw on TV were separated into various categories. So when you were watching entertainment, you knew it was introduced as entertainment. When you watched the news, however, it was introduced as this is important things for people who are serious, and we're going to give you as much truth as possible. Newspapers were that way as more so. People read newspapers because they trusted what they were reading to a degree. When I was a child, that was common. In other words, you didn't pick up your city newspaper and read a headline across the top of the page and say to yourself, well, that's absolutely ridiculously false. That did not happen, right? That kind of came with the invention or the new type of media, which became the tabloid / gossip rags. And so in those areas of gossip, tabloid, they were actually labeled as such, right? In other words, for one of us, one of the phenomenal type of magazines were like Cosmopolitan, which was for fashion. We had I remember reading as a kid something called, I think it was True Confession. It was a magazine filled with romance stories, stories of love and, short stories of romance novel writers. True Confessions. Loved that magazine. There were magazines that were just filled with pictures. But then there were the newspapers that started to flourish as I got older. And they became newspapers of what I would say people's opinions. In other words, in the original newspaper columns, there would be specific columns written by specific people where they were giving you their opinion. But on the front pages, like pages 1 through 3, it was generally, here is what happened, here is where it happened, and here is what the outcome was. It was generally dull, bland, boring news, right? Oh, like in my hometown. Front page, a car crash on Main Street. A bus ran into a fire hydrant, right? Oh, school is going to be closed. It was just basic information. Our newspapers did not have an original headline that said something to the effect, a car crashed on Main Street and it's rumored that Bob Vila was driving because he may have had an affair with the mayor's wife. That was not how the story was going. They didn't do that. They just basically said, here's what happened, But now things have turned into and changed in format to let's fill it with opinion and gossip. And then let's put it out as if it's true. And I like to point out, what I see as that is now the media landscape. Here, this writer, and I know a lot of people were talking about this ad was in Vanity Fair, not ad, commentary. Because in Vanity Fair, this person, now, of course, Meghan was going to have her show come out in January. So just like clockwork, whenever Harry and Meghan are doing something, clockwork, we start to see the rehash of these original hit pieces, the rehash of the bullying stories, the rehash of her calling the Queen a racist, the rehash of how she mistreated Philip, okay, the Queen's husband. the rehash of how rude they are and how mean they are to Kate. So these stories just come right back in cycle as soon as Meghan steps forward to do any type of productivity. This story is back to, let's talk about whether or not Meghan is a bully at work. So let's say that there are some sources, people who are unnamed, and that they have said working with Meghan is difficult. So here's this writer, and the person listed is named Martha Ross. And the newspaper is supposedly a small media outlet in the Bay Area near San Francisco. And she's got this story, this reference to the story that's going to be put in Vanity Fair. And let's look at how they worded this. Someone saying, I think if Meghan acknowledged her own shortcomings or personal contributions to situations, rather than staying trapped in a victim narrative, her perception might be better. Now, what is that saying? What is that sentence trying to tell you? Right? Now, this is a quote of somebody we don't know who. It's supposed to be a quote of coming from someone who worked for her, perhaps here in the States. Right? And from this quote, they're saying nothing except repeating, if for those of us who've been following Harry and Meghan for a while, this is a repeated narrative from 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, right? Again, that she somehow needs to come out, raise her hand, and talk about her shortcomings. For some reason, the original narrative coming out of the UK tabloid press is that for some reason Meghan doesn't seem to know that she has shortcomings, right? They're fixated on trying to tell Meghan that she is supposed to tell herself that she's less than, right? Now, this repeated supposed unsourced unsourced commentary is that Meghan is always supposed to acknowledge her less than-ness, right? So I always like to go back and point this out. What is it? Let's ask ourselves this question and let's ask others. What is it with the opposing force, the oppositional forces in the world, where they absolutely continuously insist that you do not believe in your own ability and that you must continuously see yourself as less and always acknowledge how less than you are? And that is all this article is about, is that we are announcing to the world that this woman thinks she is worthwhile. She thinks that she is positive. She believes in herself, and she believes herself to try and achieve successes in her life. That she hasn't been beaten down to the point where she doesn't even try anymore. And the oppositional forces in the world hate that. That is what this article is about. They despise in the oppositional world, remember this even for yourselves, that the oppositional forces in your life absolutely want to see you broken. And they are not happy unless you are. And the fact that Meghan is not completely destroyed, it makes them angry. They want her to acknowledge and be broken. All right? So here's what they're saying, right? So then they finish off that statement with, at least in this article, it's listed there halfway joking, whatever that means, perhaps sarcastically said, right? That they went to state, but who am I to criticize Meghan Markle? She's doing great. Okay? For some reason, that is the way they finished their um, their complaint slash turnaround, right? With sarcasm. Who are they to criticize? Well, that is a good question. You're unnamed. You're a nameless source. So who are you? Well, you are no one. You said it yourself. You are an unnamed source. That means you are a nobody. And the reason that you want Meghan to acknowledge all of these things that she is causing to happen in her own life, which isn't that the truth about everyone? That your life is a result of you and your actions and your decisions? Why would anyone need to stand up and say that? Isn't that a reality? Which it is also a reality that she is continuously attacked. Isn't that also a reality? But here you have an unnamed source who then asks the question, well, who am I to criticize? Well, you are no one. You are an unnamed source. So I want to iterate how I think about these articles and the people behind them. And I want to have what I call another person that says, I'm another person. I'm not media, right? I'm not a correspondent, but I want to be another voice that states this medium and our visible media and our visible news sources, if that's what you want to call them, the visible media has become this monstrous thing. It is no longer a source of information. It's only a source of entertainment, gossip, and maligning people at every opportunity. Right? And so who's trotted out? The same, we trot out the same figures over and over. If we don't trot out the exact same people, then we at least trot out the exact same personalities. And here they come out when they think Meghan is about to do something positive, and they come out with their statements of let's throw some kind of a wet blanket on what she's doing. Now, guys, I know I've been blathering for a moment here, but I want to tell you, everyone, let me say good morning to everyone who is here really quickly. Good morning, King for Concepts. Thank you for being here. See, I was going to give a shout out. I'm so glad I caught up with you. And welcome here that you are in the house. Thank you so much, King for Concepts, for being here. And I love it that you guys are up and out this morning to say hello and get us going. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Joyce Anderson, good morning. Good morning to you. And she says good morning to everyone. I love it that you're here. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry if I'm rambling too much. I'm, I'm trying to get myself together, and I am gonna try my best to do better. Joyce Anderson, it is great to see you here. I love it. Super Squaddy's in the house. Marjorie, love it that you are here. Good morning. And she says the Vanity Fair was a hatchet job and no one actually spoke to them. You know, 1,000%, 1,000%. You know what? Let me give you guys 100% an applause. Thank you. See, I have to throw out the applause for you guys. One, for being here. Thank you for supporting me. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna be trying a lot more entertaining things throughout the year. I'm going to try to amp it up. But Marjorie, you are not the only person who has made that observation. Yeah, why else, why in the world would they find the need to have anything to say? Again, coming back to that old story. Let's talk about the people who didn't like working for her. Well, come on, people. How many of us have had a job and we complain on the job about our managers, supervisors, and bosses? Isn't that everybody? So it's a non-story. But of course, they want that to smear dirt on it. So what I had done in these articles is let's look at this. This is the picture of the people that they trot out to always jump on the attack. But when you think about it, who in this group, who's actually helping other people? All of these people showed up on TV to run their mouth and talk, but you didn't see them volunteering. You didn't see them donating. You didn't hear them talking about anything like that. But what do? They talk about what other people do. That is the only job that they have, is let me find someone to say something about, something controversial, so that I can show up on television. And that is who these characters are. Megyn Kelly, of course, that's her job, right? Her job is to try to be controversial so that she can get clicks and therefore earn a paycheck. And I wonder, when you look at what they do and how they operate, even in the media / news entertainment spaces, when you look at these people, is there any reason for them to be on television? When you look at them, do you see anything that is called talent? I mean, can you find anything that is knowledge, skills, and abilities? I can't. Right? Now, I mean, they have jobs and they definitely are involved in their actual careers. Justine Bateman, who is number 2 here at the top. She's, writer, director, a producer of film and television shows. So that's a business. I get it. You're able to do that. Our wonderful girl over here, Kelsey, I think is her name. She's hilarious. Yeah, she's the British version, the British implant in Hollywood to tell America everything the UK wants us to know. Right? Meghan McCain, for real? Really? Meghan McCain really wants to sit opposite someone who actually had to work for a living? Really? And then complain and talk about them as if they're not capable? For real? She has a book that no one has read, probably. She doesn't have a lot of things to tell people. What is it in a book you have to tell us? Nothing. So anyway, that is who these people are. This is what they do. And our task is to spread the word that there is less and less believable information in our faces. And that we need to comb through all of the information that we receive, combing through it to look for the real pieces in it. And it's terrible because it's like digging through a garbage dump, right? So I want to point back to, let's go back in the past. The story of King Edward at the time, abdicating from his throne in order to marry the woman Wallis Simpson. We now have to look at how she was presented with a little bit of skepticism today. And the reason we have to look at this is because some of the exact same things were said about her that is currently being said about Meghan Markle. Right? Of course, they hated the fact that he was actually marrying an actress. That's always off the table. And then she had been married before. That was also an issue. And Meghan fit both of those. So it was very easy for the media to say, oh, she's exactly like Wallis Simpson. And here's how Wallis Simpson was also maligned in the media, right? She was a horrible woman, in a way, twice divorced, socialite that somehow came along and, worked some sort of, I don't know, womanizing witchcraft over King Edward and lured him away from the throne. But initially, she was being accused of trying to marry him so that she could become wealthy and get all of his money. Haven't we heard that story about Meghan? That she's using Prince Harry to get ahead. When in fact, marrying Prince Harry actually took her backwards. She lost everything that she already had. She lost everything that she was working toward by marrying Prince Harry. Everything was wiped off the table. So she's now beginning anew. She's actually, oh gosh, I got to start and pick up where I left off. So that's actually what she's doing now. And of course, with children. But Wallis Simpson had that same story. So like here, she was twice divorced, and the establishment did not want him to marry her, mainly for, I don't know, a number of reasons. But the excuses were that the church would not recognize him as the head of the church if he married a divorced woman. That was kind of the excuse of the day, right? But now when you look at the stories behind Wallis Simpson and King Edward, you really have to now go back and look at those historical stories with a grain of understanding that the machine went to work to actually destroy her reputation and his once he abdicated the throne. It was very difficult for him to do anything else. Truly difficult. So, as with all of these things that are delaying some of the work that's going on in Los Angeles, I had the before and after photos of some of the same areas. It's astonishing, right? So, for a moment, keep in mind, at least here, it looks like the media is trying to present you with what is happening. And we're just going to kind of, keep our fingers crossed and our prayers up as much as possible to support some of the difficulties these people are going through. But I do want to stress, and I do want you all to help me get the word out, rather, that these people have been maligning the character of people associated with the royal family for a long time. And that their playbook on making destruction in the life of Meghan Markle is absolutely not new. This is something they have been doing for quite a while. So just keep getting the word out. And it looks like it's slowly penetrating. And over the next 4 years, I'm going to tell you honestly, here from the United States perspective, I don't know what to tell you to believe over the next 4 years. But I will tell you that many things are going to come at you, and you need to take all of it with a grain of salt and understand that there is probably an ulterior motive behind almost everything you hear. And our job is going to be, our task is going to be trying to figure out what that ulterior motive is and stay ahead of it as you try to move through your own life. Okay? So with that, I'm going to try to get myself to wrapping it up a little bit. Okay, so let's see who else has said a couple of things before we go. Let me read who's in here. Once again, Marjorie back online. Yes, she said that Justine Bateman needs to pay attention to her. You know what? You need to behave. Listen, if she wants to criticize, she's irrelevant and no one remembers her. And she is in the stories of Where Are They Now? I don't disagree with you. I liked her on the show Family Ties. But remember, even on Family Ties, she played a ditzy airhead that knew nothing. So it's very difficult to take her as something different in real life. Am I right? Am I right? Thumbs up me if you understand what I'm saying. I mean, on Family Ties, Michael J. Fox was the brain, right? Brilliant. And he was the brain. And Justine played the role of the high school simple-minded slut. Okay? And so basically, that's how I see her in real life when she came out talking like this. But then, if you notice, there is an MO for most of the people who speak ill of Meghan because they don't generally attack Harry. All of the venom is directed at the wife, right? It's at the Eve. It's Eve's fault, right? Remember that. it's not the husband. It was Eve, okay? So Marjorie also says, but isn't the present king married a divorcee? Absolutely. Oh, see, remember, that's different now. You see? Yeah. Well, it's okay for him, remember. Let's look at who let's look at who they are. Remember, as much of a divorcee as that woman is, you see, she still is of the family of the aristocracy, illegitimate and all. They're still in that aristocratic bubble. You see, Kate is the commoner, right? Camilla and her family, why, they still are among the illegitimates, but they were the kingmakers, right? That's how they operate. So they get a pass. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we don't want to, we don't have to worry about that. The only thing that they wanted was to know they went to the old rules, which is why Diana got caught up with that nonsense. They went to the old rules of, we need to know that the babies you have are actually your babies, your bloodline. In other words, you need to incubate in a clean vessel. And that was Diana, right? Because don't forget, and I hope you guys like science fiction, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start inundating you with my love of science fiction. With each new post, I'm going to start throwing more science fiction at you, and you're just going to have to live with it, okay? But remember, in the science fiction movies, whatever the creature is, when it needs to gestate in order to create offspring, it has to find a clean vessel to deposit its eggs in. Okay? That's in every horrifying science fiction movie where an alien attacks. Right? So he could play with the monsters and the aliens of his own kind. Well, that was for entertainment and playing and for fun. But when he needed to provide offspring to that system, well, it needed to be incubated in a clean vessel. And thus they destroyed that poor young girl's life. Right? Because they're monsters in that way. So here's what I wanted to give to you all as a little bit of an uplift before we roll out. As you all have let me talk for too long. I want to point you guys to Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 12. I want to talk about spiritual gifts. And the reason I wanted to just kind of tap on this is I thought about the fact that it would appear Meghan, even as a young adult, it appears that she likes to do things that help other people. She likes to look good, right? She likes nice things, and she likes to be active, right? And in 1 Corinthians, we talk about things that come natural to each of us, because this is a chapter where they talk about spiritual gifts. That is the topic. You know how often people in life will say things like, Oh, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. You know, when you're 10 and 12 years old and you're trying to say, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a policeman or whatever. Um, and you're trying to decide who and what you want to be in your future. A lot of it is linked. A lot of these things are tied to what is actually your spiritual gift. In other words, kind of your natural flow, right? And First Corinthians does somewhat of an examination of that. And I want to put that out there even to all of us. Some of us like to donate. Some of us like to work for charities. Some of us like to organize things, events, parties. Some of us like to stay home and curl up and watch science fiction movies. I need to raise my hand there, right? But if someone said, well, what is it that you are really, really good at? Well, I might not know on the outside, but I do know what I gravitate to. I always wanted to just work maybe in radio and communications and things like that. And so this YouTube forum, even though I'm new to it, I'm small time at it, I'm like, oh, I like this. I enjoy it. And then I found, you know what? I like to share things that I learn and remember biblically. Now, I always preface this. This is not a cult, and I'm not trying to recruit you to anything, right? I'm not going to hand you a robe and any candles, and we're not going to start chanting, all right? I just like to point out some things that I've learned and things that Scripture might sometimes support. So in 1 Corinthians, let's jump down to verse 7. Now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for common good. To one, there is given through the Spirit a message of wisdom. To another, a message of knowledge, and knowledge by means of that same Spirit. To another, faith, also given by the Spirit. To another, gifts of healing, by that one of the Spirit. And to another, miraculous powers. To one, prophecy. To another, distinguishing between spirits. To another, speaking in different kinds of tongues, meaning languages. And to still another, how to interpret those languages. Now, this is just a short tad for types of skills and gifts that might be natural to someone, right? I do say, I know as I have traveled from country to country, I have not become proficient, but I seem to be fine and okay and comfortable in areas where people are speaking other languages. I do pick up language a little bit here and there pretty quickly, even at my age, right? And I like it. So then there's wisdom. There are some people that when you ask them a question about something that might be bothering you or troubling you, somehow they zero right in on what you might be able to do to approach that issue, that problem, or something that is confounding you. There's someone who can kind of pull these little things apart and they can show you something and you'll think, wow, that was clear and simple. Why didn't I get that? Well, because their gift is wisdom. And then there's the gift of knowledge. Now, this one is a little bit more in depth, but I give you all the opportunity to go through Corinthians and kind of read a lot of the backgrounds here, because there are some people who are academic knowledge. They study, they learn, and they put that information together in a way that, like professors of our world will do. And there are some people that are gifted at doing that. Those are those teachers that they can amass so much information. And, they're just able to do it. When you tell me I have to study for a test or study for an exam, and right now there's some certifications I have to complete, I am angry about that. My sister, on the other hand, can't wait. She can't wait to read a book that she hasn't read. Okay? So travel through Corinthians, and enjoy some of the spiritual gifts, and then look at your own life and examine some of your own likes and dislikes to try to zone in on your spiritual gifts. Now, here's the caveat before I read these last group. Spiritual gifts are the type of thing that when you operate from a position of, like we say, doing good, love of mankind, so to speak, and with the grace and spirit of, from a religious point of view, right? Or from what God would want from us. And I say that very cautiously because, again, I don't want anyone to flip out and say, oh gosh, this is turning into a church service. I'm not trying to do that. This is the language I speak, okay? But if you get outside of that, then the very gift that you have will seem like a burden, or the very gift that you have will drive other people crazy. So let's look at the breakdown of many of the gifts that they listed. Leadership. Some people are gifted leaders. Being an administrator. Some people are gifted at being able to organize and administrate how things work and run. And you can tell if you're good at that, right? If you, the difference between someone who's running a business and you go, wow, this business is running as smoothly, people know what they're doing and where to go and where to put things, they're administrative. Then there's someone who's good at teaching, people who have knowledge. Again, we went over that. Someone who is wise, we got that one. And prophecy, now that's another one. There are some people that seem to have insight in how things will unfold, right? Prophetic. But the caveat to prophetic is people who tell the truth. They feel the need and they are compelled to put out in the world what they see to be true. This particular gift is not for everyone. The gift of prophecy can be very, very painful to that individual, because if you are prone to pointing out the truth, people don't like that. Keep that in mind. And then there are people who are gifted in service. Some people are gifted in mercy. Some people are gifted at giving. This is where Megan seems to float in. And hospitality. Being able to greet and treat others in a way that makes them feel welcome. That's a gift. And I will tell you, I'm not quite avid with that gift. Right? I try. I have to work at that. Whereas some people, they can do that without, the people who can throw a party and everyone feels like they were the main reason that the party's being thrown. I don't have that gift, but some people do. So look in your world and look at the features that you may have and see if these spiritual gifts speak to you, because there are ways to nurture these gifts, and that is within the text here I've listed, and in 1 Corinthians is the place to start, chapter 12. It will help to direct sometimes your own ambitions and the way you might want to move through the world and some of the things you may want to achieve, especially if you look at how your gift would uplift if you were to pursue it fully, right? Now, that being said, folks, I want to thank you all again. Thank you so much, so much for being here. I appreciate that you have spent some time chit-chatting with me. And one more comment here from Joyce Anderson. Thank you so much. She says she has a penchant for donating and gifting gifts. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. You see, and that is where you know to step forward. Right? The beauty of that is that you can step forward in being able to help others. And that is a gift that you have, probably encouraging others to do well with that same gift of giving. Right? I think that is wonderful. It really is. It's absolutely wonderful. And I congratulate you because that is not a that is not a very well spread out gift, right? Some people don't want to give anybody anything. I think my gift might be somewhere, I hate to say in the wisdom category because it sounds like, oh, you're bragging. I'm not saying that, but I do have, I think, a quality. Sometimes it comes and goes. I have a quality of when people tell me something that they're dealing with, I sometimes have the ability to see it more directly. In other words, they may see something and think it's a jumbled up trial, but I see sort of parts and pieces of different things that can all be dealt with more simplistically. So maybe in that area. So I'm going to have to definitely keep my eye on that and work with that as well, because there are gifts that, like you say, you have them and they shift and change over time and they improve. And some people have a little bit of everything. All right. So I challenge each of you to step forward in your spiritual gift, and we will use that spiritual gift to continue to uplift each other and in this space of uplifting the Sussex family when they are doing good. Right? So let's get ready to rock out, people. I've held you captive long enough. So I'm going to give you the last little. I'm going to let you go on about your day and enjoy. For us here in the United States, at least where I am, it is cold, 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 cold outside. Okay. So my day today will be spent enjoying free time, watching movies, and trying to keep my mind on what is good. And I challenge you all to do the same. Don't upset yourself unnecessarily about anything. Okay? So stay focused, positive, stay positive, people, and keep winning. All right? Take it away.